I lost $20 to you because the Lakers failed to win one game against the San Antonio Spurs. I really thought that they would. It's their first sweep since 1967.
There wasn't even a competitive game.
It wasn't. Dwight Howard was ejected in the third quarter. This segment is going to be based off of Magic Johnson calling out Dwight Howard. Here's what Magic said through Twitter. I'll try to get to the best ones. Laker Nation, Dwight Howard, that was a big no-no. Your teammates and the fans were counting on you. Dwight, I've been swept before, but I never let my team down by getting kicked out of the game. Dwight, with an already depleted team, you couldn't afford to foul out or get kicked out. Having you on the floor was the only chance for the Lakers. And then Dwight wrote on Twitter, here we go, I'm still upset about tonight's game, the way the season ended. I'm mad I lost my cool. I'm sorry for letting the team, our fans down when they needed me the most. If there's one thing I've learned this year, it's that I need to be more responsible for my actions and learn to, quote, breathe. And then he makes a joke about Charlie Sheen working on his anger management issues. But despite our tough season, it's an honor being a member of a team with this amazing history, the best fans in the league. I hope I get the chance to make it up to you. Thank you, LA. So basically, what do you take away from this? Magic Johnson is obviously right. Dwight Howard, will he come back? Should the Lakers re-sign him? I say yes.
No.
No, why?
I don't think so. I don't think, but they won't make that same calculation that I would make. If I were the Lakers,
what do you mean?
I would not re-sign Howard, and I would trade Kobe Bryant. There's literally no one talking about doing that, assuming Bryant comes back to a healthy degree.
You would trade Kobe Bryant?
I would think about it. I would see if there were an opportunity if some team. The problem is in the NBA is that the only teams that want Kobe Bryant are teams that necessarily wouldn't have the parts available to make a deal. And nobody's talking about trading Kobe. Literally no one.
Because it shouldn't be a discussion.
It's done. It is over for the Lakers. Nothing good happens with Kobe Bryant and that kind of team anymore. No playoff run, no nothing. So if you're a normal team that doesn't have some sort of this weird sort of fascination that you're always going to be good and that nothing ever goes wrong, a normal team would say, we have an aging superstar but a great player. We get what assets we can now and build for the future. The Lakers are not making a run. Can they put together 47 and 35 and maybe win a first-round playoff series? I doubt it, but maybe.
Okay,
Dwight Howard, and I hate to sound like Cenk, but Dwight, and I won't. So I'm channeling Cenk here.
Just don't bring up Peyton Manning.
There's some chance that Dwight Howard is a loser, and that needs to be recognized. He's got a bad back. He has an injury risk, and you want to throw that maximum money behind him? I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Do you think they would have made the playoffs without Dwight Howard?
Who cares whether they made the playoffs? I don't know.
It just would. Do you think they would have? Yes or no? I say no. I don't think they would have. Not even close. I think they'd be out of the playoffs.
They are out of the playoffs.
They made the playoffs. I'm talking going into.
Yeah, I got it. I think that team was configured wrong, and as it turned out, sort of sloppily. And could a team exist with Kobe and Dwight Howard with different supporting parts? I don't know. Maybe. Some Gasol deal should have been made at the time that it could have been made, but maybe the right deal didn't come along. I certainly don't know of a deal that they turned down that they should have made.
Okay.
But whatever happened here, this team was put together poorly. They already have.
Did you think that at the beginning of the season, that it was put together poorly? You did.
I made a bet with Steve-O that there would be no championship appearance in the finals for the Kobe era Lakers. Obviously, I was a little worried at that point, but signing a 39-year-old point guard and a center whose ability to be as good as people think he is questioned, who seems to, while dazzling at some points, the whole saga, the nonsensical behavior that he exhibited in Orlando with the trade me, don't trade me. Then
it was ridiculous.
Then his incredibly dumb, puzzling decision to say that he would stick around for one more year in Orlando. Or when he didn't, at that point he didn't have to. Like, you get your contract's up, you can go. He didn't need to activate that last year. It sounded like a guy unable to commit to one place and then getting deathly afraid that people wouldn't like him because they thought he was cutting and running. He's clearly a sensitive guy and is very worried about what people say about him. And so I think he's probably a decent guy. And so I suspect if Cenk were out here, Cenk would say he's a loser, and then I would be mad, and I'd be like, you can't call him a loser. But the fact of the matter is, like, here's what he might not be. Let me put it this way.
Okay.
I'm not sure Dwight Howard's a winner. I'm not sure Dwight Howard is a guy who's going to carry a team with him to something. Forget the winning a championship because that's too simply. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
That he could even really carry a team.
Would you still call him a loser though if he won a championship?
No, I'm not calling him a loser. I'm saying I don't know that he's a winner.
Okay,
and I wouldn't throw $100 million or whatever the max is now, $85 million, 5 years, because you can get more money from the Lakers, at that guy. I don't know what I do. The problem in the NBA is you can't really go a different direction. You can't say, well, we won't throw it at Dwight Howard. We'll throw it at someone else.
Yeah.
But I would investigate all possibilities before I just decided that it made sense to re-sign Dwight Howard.
Okay, so let me help you out. He is a loser. I'm going to say it straight up.
Okay.
He is a fucking loser. With everything that happened in Orlando that you basically just recapped in case people forgot it, that pretty much makes him a loser. When you're lashing out at coaches and you're doing the whole press conference that they did together when he came out and said some of the dumbest things you'll ever see, everything about it was terrible. So he's a loser. However, if the Lakers don't re-sign him, what do they have to look forward to? There's nothing. You said that they should trade Kobe Bryant. What would be a good trade? A first-round pick, and then maybe an above-average player?
A couple of young picks and a couple of young players and a high draft pick, and you hope that pick lucks out that year. And I mean, that's the thing of it is in the NBA.
The success rate of having another Kobe Bryant with a first-round draft pick seems so slim nowadays that those picks don't ever pan out.
How do teams get great in the NBA? Basically, there are a couple of weird exceptions, but basically how teams get great.
Look at Oklahoma City.
Yeah, what did they do? They struck gold with 2 picks.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. 3 picks, really, if you count Harden. That's really the only way to do it. The only way the Wizards who've been so bad for so long, the only chance that they ever had, they got that #1 pick. They got a special player. He's been hurt, so that isn't even necessarily going to work out. But you don't build through 3. You don't do it by trading for Nene and Trevor Ariza.
Though I do like Nene.
So do I.
I do like Nene. Good role player.
Yeah, but I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that's like you got to get lucky. You got to draft Olajuwon. You got to draft David
How
Robinson.
often does an Olajuwon or Robinson
Well, we're
going to
name a bunch of players. Like, I mean, between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and...
Plus, there's no emphasis on low-post players that much anymore anyways. It's a point guard league now.
Or you get...
It's a smaller league.
Or you get Michael Jordan. I'm just saying that, like, I'm not saying you're going to get a player just like Michael Jordan. That's silly. But the Heat is a very rare exception of a team that was able to complete... And if you're the Lakers, maybe this is what you do. Is you do what essentially the Heat did. They were able to stay a little competitive because of Wade, but basically, you're the Lakers. You're a signature franchise.
Wouldn't you stay a little competitive then with Dwight or Kobe for a few years? No, you would not stay competitive with a star.
I mean, we're wasting money.
But you just said that the Heat stayed competitive with 1 star.
No, I didn't. I said that they had the opportunity to because that's a star they wanted to continue to build around.
Yeah.
But that's only because he happened to be young and a guy who could be a magnet for bringing in Bosh and James. But what you might have to do is go 14-68 and then 22-60 the following year and clear enough salary cap space for the right year when the right guy, LeBron James, is
then
a
your
free
revenue
agent.
would be down and the fans wouldn't attend the games.
It's the Lakers. They'll still come. But no, it'll be bad for a couple years, but it'll come back like that as soon as you're good. So in the NBA, it's really tough. It's tough to go this middle ground. And is it better to go 41-41? I don't think so. I think it'd be better to start over. Rebuilds are hard, and they're particularly hard in a market like LA and a team with a fan base that has the expectations the Lakers do.
So you see where we stand. What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below.